Hello, and welcome back to Fem Life. If you'd like to support me, please use my affiliate links mentioned below. Every purchase you make will bring me closer to my gender transition. Life is a complex maze full of twists and turns that everyone must navigate. What seems like a perfect plan often leads to unexpected complications. Take Stanley Peterson, a man in his mid-40s who inherited a substantial estate but otherwise lived an unremarkable life. His ambitions and goals fell short, and without his inheritance, he might have faced a grim fate. With his wealth, Stanley attempted various careers: acting, creating theatrical costumes, and finally, archaeology, specifically Egyptian archaeology. Despite 3 years of sifting through Egyptian sands with little result, Stanley's life took a turn with a bizarre discovery. Even an amateur archaeologist can stumble upon something intriguing. For Stanley, this discovery became a curse. You might doubt this, given that the early 20th century dismisses such notions as magic and superstition. The young woman claiming to have once been a man might seem like a con artist or someone deluded. However, Egypt still holds many mysteries beyond modern understanding. The pyramids, for instance, surpass anything we could build today. Traveling the Nile feels like stepping back into a time when religion and magic were intertwined. Skeptical? Then follow Emma Peterson, formerly Stanley, on her quest to reclaim her lost identity and archaeological find. Her journey back to England was far from pleasant. She had to use nearly all her money to bribe officials for her departure from Egypt and again upon her arrival in England. Traveling without proper documentation is challenging, especially for a young woman without an escort. Emma faced unwanted attention and advances from men, which she had to fend off. Fortunately, Stanley's training in self-defense, a skill he had pursued on a whim, proved useful. Although Stanley never needed it, it helped Emma maintain her reputation and personal safety. Establishing a new identity proved difficult. Emma had no past or official papers, only her appearance to confirm her identity. She forged documents to link herself to Stanley Peterson, a task made easier by using her own handwriting. This allowed her to secure enough funds to seek help. Emma navigated the rougher parts of London, seeking men who were clever, brave, and strong. While many men fit the latter two traits, she found that most of those she met were more interested in distractions like alleyway rendezvous or cheap lodgings. After rejecting numerous such offers, she eventually made some headway. She learned about two individuals known for their investigative skills, so skilled, in fact, that even Scotland Yard struggled with cases they tackled. Emma thought, "These are the men I need to help me recover what's rightfully mine." She discovered that they frequented a pub called the Leaky Cauldron, located just 2 blocks south. It was unusual for a young, attractive woman to be alone in such a disreputable place. The pub, frequented by society's outcasts, was notorious for its gambling and rough clientele. Women who ventured there were often of questionable repute. So when Emma walked in, she drew immediate attention. Even the piano player and singers paused to look. Clearing her throat, Emma asked, "Does anyone know where I can find Mr. Nathan Springer or his partner, Bluto Jones?" There was no immediate response, and soon patrons returned to their activities. As Emma hesitated, a massive man approached her. He was not just large, but built with impressive muscle, his arms thicker than most men's legs. Standing around 7 feet tall, he wore a white shirt with sleeves rolled up, black pants held up by suspenders, and intimidating metal toe boots. His bowler hat seemed comically small for his size, though no one dared to mention it. "What does a young lady like you want with Nathan and Bluto?" he asked in a deep, rich voice, casually flexing his muscles and holding onto a cigar. Emma felt nervous, but stood her ground. "I have a business proposition to discuss with them." "What business would that be, darling?" "Your husband misbehaving?" he joked. Emma's face flushed with anger. She raised her fists. "Do not speak to me like that. I demand satisfaction, of course, under Queensberry rules." The sight of such a slight woman challenging the giant was a spectacle none had seen before in any pub in England. The imposing figure was at a loss. Hold on, lass. I don't fight with helpless women. This only fueled Emma's anger further, and she started punching him. It was like hitting a brick wall. How dare you call me helpless? At that moment, a man approached, shaking his head. What's the matter now, Bluto? I swear, Nathan, I did nothing. This whirlwind of a woman attacked me just because I asked some friendly questions. Arf. I just wanted to speak with Nathan Springer and Bluto Jones, not deal with some oversized thug. Emma fumed. Well, you're talking to both of us right now, Nathan replied. Emma paused her futile attempts. Is there somewhere we can talk in private? We can use one of the back parlors if you prefer. And may I ask your name? Nathan inquired. Emma Peterson, she said, extending her hand. Instead of shaking it, Nathan gently kissed it. The gesture surprised her, but wasn't entirely unwelcome. No! This isn't right. I'm a man. I shouldn't be enjoying this, Emma thought, struggling with her feelings. Despite her inner turmoil, she couldn't deny Nathan's attractiveness, broad shoulders, strong arms, though not as muscular as Bluto's. Things were becoming more complicated by the moment. They moved to a back room where Nathan and Bluto sat at a round table while Emma remained standing. I need your help retrieving something. 3 months ago, I made an archaeological discovery, Emma said, showing them a picture of a stone statue. I mapped the excavation site and spent a week cataloging my find. The artifacts were in pristine condition, and I hoped to uncover an untouched pharaoh's tomb. Not to be rude, but how does this concern me and my partner? Bluto asked, flicking the ashes from his cigar. Emma took a deep breath. You won't believe this, but I used to be Stanley Peterson. I was a man until I opened the tomb. The golden statues there came to life, surrounded me, and transformed me into the woman you see now. I was stunned, but nothing compared to the mummy coming to life. I escaped and kept running until dawn. Bluto smirked. I don't believe a word of it. He examined the statue's photo. This looks like a fake. No women ever ruled as pharaoh. Actually, Howard Carter recently discovered evidence of a female pharaoh named Hatshepsut, Emma countered. Bluto raised an eyebrow. Howard Carter? Isn't he working for Lord Carnarvon? Emma frowned. Yes, he does. Carnarvon holds exclusive rights to the Valley of the Kings. It's as if you just need to pick a spot at random to find something valuable. Meanwhile, I'm left with nothing but sand outside his territory. She smiled again. But of course, Carnarvon doesn't control all of Egypt. Bluto shook his head. I still think you've fabricated this statue and are trying to deceive us. What? I'm telling you the truth. Emma retorted. Wait a minute, how come you suddenly sound so knowledgeable? And how do you know that statue represents a pharaoh? I've always been intelligent, Miss Peterson. People often expect a big, dumb brute, so I play the part, Bluto replied, puffing on his cigar. As for the statue, I've studied archaeology and know a bit about the subject. Pharaohs typically held items signifying their rule. The statue in your photo, with its traditional pharaoh's beard, looks rather ridiculous. I know the statue seems odd, but it's real. And so is the mummy. And we're supposed to believe that, and that you used to be a man? Nathan challenged. Emma's desperation showed. I need your help. I'm offering a generous payment, whether you believe me or not. So you want us to battle some statues and a mummy that have magically come to life? Bluto asked. No, they vanished along with all the treasures I found. I returned to the site and found nothing. Someone must have discovered my site, taken everything, and could claim my findings as their own. Emma produced a bag of coins and placed it on the table. So, will you help me, or should I offer this to someone else? Nathan picked up the bag, his eyes widening as he examined the contents. He glanced at Bluto, then back at Emma. Do you realize how risky it is for a lady to carry such a sum of money alone in this part of London? Bluto took the bag to inspect it himself. Good heavens! What are you, a leprechaun with a pot of gold? Desperate times call for desperate measures. Will you help me or not? Emma demanded. We'll help you, but under certain conditions, Nathan said. What? Bluto exclaimed, nearly dropping his cigar onto his lap. It began to burn his trousers before he thought to retrieve it. Jack struggled to keep his composure. Calm down, Bluto. I know what I'm doing. What conditions? Emma asked cautiously. If we find out you're deceiving us, we'll ensure you're turned over to the authorities, Nathan replied. Is that all, or are you looking for a cut of the treasure too? Emma asked with a hint of sarcasm. Bluto grinned. That's the first sensible thing you've said all evening. Both Nathan and Emma turned to Bluto, whose grin widened. What? If the treasure is real, I'm curious to see how the other half lives for a change. Emma smiled wryly. You might regret that sentiment, but for now, I'm willing to share the reward for museums and collectors. Nathan seemed hesitant. Part of what you said felt like a threat. If it was, let me warn you, my partner and I are not easily intimidated. That's exactly the kind of men I need. This could be dangerous. I chose you both because of your reputation in the underworld for retrieving stolen items and solving crimes. You've even assisted Scotland Yard on several occasions. Hey, Nathan, did you hear that? We're better than Scotland Yard. Ha! I'm starting to like this lady more and more, Bluto said. Emma smiled faintly. Thank you, but please don't refer to me as a little lady. Bluto nodded. Oh right, you're supposed to be a fellow. If it helps, I'll pretend you used to be a Siberian tiger if that's what you want, as long as there's treasure involved. Emma's face reddened with anger. How very gracious of you, Mr. Bluto Jones. She then turned to Nathan, softening her expression. And what about you, Mr. Springer? Nathan, skilled at judging character, could sense the sincerity in Emma's voice. His intuition had been crucial in solving cases. He considered her claims, which seemed far-fetched, and wondered if she might be delusional. Yet, the substantial bag of coins she presented seemed too real to dismiss. Nathan looked at Emma, who awaited his response. We'll investigate your stolen property. In the meantime, I suggest you book passage on the next ship to Egypt, Miss Peterson. Emma smiled. Arrangements are already in place, we set sail in 2 days. Nathan raised an eyebrow. You were that confident we'd accept your offer? Every moment counts, Emma said. The longer we wait, the colder the trail becomes. You and your esteemed partner should know that from your casework. Bluto roared, can't argue with that logic. The next 2 days were packed with preparations for the trip. Emma needed specialized clothing tailored for her archaeological work. Most women's attire wasn't suited for the rigors of archaeology, crawling through rubble and rock required practical clothing. Women's fashion, with its restrictive corsets, long, easily torn dresses, and impractical high heels, was far from ideal. Emma also detested feminine clothing, as it reminded her of her lost manhood and made her feel self-conscious in public. Given the taboo of a tailor fitting a woman for such attire, a seamstress was hired, and although she struggled at first, the final result met Emma's needs. Meanwhile, Nathan and Bluto struggled to find any evidence of recent significant discoveries in Egypt. The underground market had no new items of interest, and it seemed they would need to return to the site to investigate further and verify Emma's claims. Nathan harbored doubts, but kept them to himself, while Bluto viewed the trip as a well-deserved vacation on the client's dime. The trio was set to board the Jetlandia, a cargo ship departing from Southampton that occasionally took on passengers. Why are we on this rust bucket instead of a proper passenger liner? Bluto grumbled as they approached the ship. Because, my large friend, no other ships are heading where we need to go. The Jutlandia is our only option unless you prefer to swim, Emma replied calmly. What's going on up ahead? Nathan asked, noticing a large crowd gathered in front of the White Star Line office. I don't know, but they seem to be gathered outside the office where I booked our passage. If there's an issue with the ship, it could disrupt everything, Emma said, her concern growing. People are shouting, and there are women crying, Bluto observed. Something serious must have happened. They approached the crowd and reached the entrance of the White Star Line office, only to be stopped by security guards. Excuse me, can you tell us? Emma began, but one of the guards interrupted. Sorry, miss, but all we know is that the Titanic sent out a distress call last night. You'll have to wait like everyone else for more information. The Titanic? The unsinkable Titanic? Bluto's booming voice filled the air. Both guards looked alarmed. Please lower your voice. There's no evidence that the Titanic has sunk. It's more likely that there's engine trouble. Just stay calm until we know more. I hope you're right, Bluto said, clearly uneasy. Excuse me, sir, can you tell us if the Jutlandia is still scheduled to depart today? Emma inquired. I don't see why not, miss. Just head down to the dock where it's berthed, and they'll take care of you, the guard replied. With that reassurance, the trio made their way to the ship. Bluto gasped as he took in the sight of it. Heaven help me! When I called this ship a rust bucket, I didn't expect it to be a rust bucket. Bluto exclaimed. Nathan surveyed the ship with a hint of concern. I'm sure it's seaworthy, Bluto. After all, the crew would probably mutiny before letting it set sail if it weren't. Nathan glanced over at Emma, who was arranging for their luggage to be loaded onto the ship. This thing is seaworthy, right? He asked her. Emma sighed. Honestly, you two are supposed to be brave men who laugh in the face of danger. Bluto retorted, fighting thugs is one thing, but I draw the line at boarding a shipwreck waiting to happen. Emma rolled her eyes. Stop whining. If I can do this, surely you can too. With that, Emma boarded the ship, leaving Bluto stunned and slack-jawed. Nathan couldn't help but laugh at his partner's reaction. I'm not a big baby. Take that back. Bluto called after Emma, then turned to Nathan. And you stop laughing at me. Nathan raised his hands in mock surrender. Sure, I wouldn't want it to get out that I made you cry. Bluto charged at Nathan, who deftly sidestepped, sparking a chase. Bluto's massive arms flailed like dangerous pendulums, but Nathan was quicker. Despite Bluto's surprising speed for his size, Nathan was even faster. The chase was amusingly effective. Nathan managed to get Bluto aboard the ship without him realizing. It was only when Bluto heard the steam whistle that he noticed the ship was starting to leave the dock. Bluto grimaced. Ah, great. I don't know who's trickier, Nathan or that crazy woman who hired us. You might think an ocean voyage is a glamorous adventure, but traveling on a cargo vessel is quite different. As passengers, they mostly gazed at endless water and awaited their next meal. Occasionally, schools of dolphins would race ahead of the Jutlandia, their graceful movements providing brief, enchanting moments. Those encounters were captivating, and saying goodbye to the dolphins always felt too soon. Hours blended into days, and days into weeks. The voyage took nearly a month due to numerous stops along the way for loading and unloading goods at various ports. After arriving in Cairo, Emma booked a room at a respectable hotel, which would serve as their base of operations. The team could then split up to cover more ground. Nathan would delve into the local underground to search for any leads, while Emma and Bluto would return to the excavation site of her discovery. Bluto wasn't thrilled about this arrangement. Why do I have to crawl around in some dusty desert cave while you get to stay here and explore? Bluto complained. Because if you were here, you'd likely head to the nearest pub to drink, gamble, and pursue local women, Nathan replied with a laugh. I'd also managed to do some investigating, Bluto muttered, though he didn't argue further. Also, you're better suited to protect Miss Peterson than I am, Nathan added. Hold on. I don't mind Mr. Jones coming along, but I want it clear that I can take care of myself, Emma said firmly. Miss Peterson, we don't know who we're up against, just that they've stolen priceless artifacts. If they're capable of theft, they might be capable of worse. But please, don't interrupt. We need to function as a team, or the consequences could be fatal. I trust Bluto with my life, and he trusts me. I ask you to do the same. Clear? Emma saw the point and nodded. The group then split up for their respective tasks. We'll follow Emma and Bluto as they investigate the scene of the crime. The journey to the site on camel took several hours. Upon arrival, Bluto waved Emma off. What's the issue now? Emma asked. I'm examining the ground around the cave for evidence, Bluto replied, crouching low and scanning the area meticulously. The terrain was mostly hard earth, not the shifting sand common in Egypt, and fortunately, no recent sandstorms had covered up potential clues. Yet, there didn't seem to be much to find. All right, follow me into the cave, Bluto said softly. Emma followed him inside. Bluto bent down again to inspect the ground, now at what seemed to be an entrance partially blocked by a stone block with faded artwork. The carving of a woman was barely visible and appeared to have been tampered with. Bluto held up his lantern for a better view. What's this all about? Emma's eyes widened. That's new. It used to depict Isis, standing guard. According to the hieroglyphs, there was a warning. Warning? Emma smiled. The usual, don't enter beyond this point or face a curse, doomed to share the fate of Imhotep IV. Fantastic. Just what I needed. Give me the tour before I reconsider. Emma shot Bluto a look but didn't comment, leading him further into the cave. This is where all of Imhotep IV's personal items were kept. As you can see, everything's been removed. All the wall carvings in this room have been recently damaged. You can still see the fresh rock shavings where they were chipped away, Bluto observed. Why would someone go to such lengths? What's the point of putting in this kind of effort? You're the detective. Why don't you figure it out? Emma retorted. Bluto shook his head. Show me where the king was buried. They continued their unsettling exploration, navigating several corridors and passageways until they reached a relatively large room. It was completely empty, even the sarcophagus was gone. Miss Peterson, this area here is where the large stone sarcophagus was, correct? Bluto asked, indicating a deep impression in the floor. Yes, that's the spot. And after you left, how soon did you come back? I returned the next day and found everything just as you see it now. How long would it realistically take a full team of workers to remove everything from a site like this? It's hard to say. Everything would need to be documented, categorized, and studied before being transported to a museum. It could take several months, a year, or even longer if new discoveries were made during the process, Emma explained. Bluto nodded. And if you bypassed all that and just removed the items through brute force, how long would it take? Emma's eyes narrowed. What are you getting at? That's what I'm trying to find out. Your story doesn't add up. How could everything be removed within a 24-hour period? I don't know. The stone sarcophagus alone would require a full day for a team to remove without damaging it. So how did they manage to clear everything else? I don't know. There's no sign of heavy foot traffic inside, and no evidence of trucks, carts, or other means of hauling away all the treasure. So how did they move it all? I don't know! Emma shouted. I've told you everything I know. I'm being honest. The chosen one has returned. Oh my goodness, did you hear that? Emma exclaimed. Bluto looked unsettled. Yeah, it didn't sound human. I wonder if it was some sort of language. Are you trying to be humorous right now? Just because I know a bit about Egyptian archaeology doesn't mean I'm fluent in any of the native languages. That was English, you overgrown. Emma's tirade was cut short. There is no escape. 3 figures entered the room, looking like living statues. Their skin and clothing appeared to be made of pure gold, resembling ancient Egyptian attire. They were all female, with feline heads, and they were larger and more muscular than Bluto. This isn't good. I can handle thugs, but giant, golden catwomen are another matter. One of the catwomen pointed at Emma. You will be our queen for the new eternal reign of Seti IV. What do they want? They want me to be their queen, Emma replied, stunned. Fantastic, I can't decide if it's worse that you actually understand that gibberish or that they want to make you royalty. Cracking jokes isn't helping our situation. The central catwoman gestured to the others. I'll handle the queen. You two prepare the other for joining our ranks. What did she say now? Bluto asked, tension evident in his voice. The leader intends to take me, while the others. Emma trailed off. Yes, continue. What about me? They want you to join their ranks. Bluto began to evade the 2 catwomen pursuing him. And what does that mean? How should I know? I'm just translating. I'm not reading their minds. The leader seized Emma and lifted her high into the air. Despite her struggle, she was too weak to escape. Emma! Bluto shouted. At that moment, bright rays of light from the eyes of the 2 pursuing catwomen bathed him, causing excruciating pain throughout his body. As they grabbed him, he resisted fiercely, rolling backward and forcing them to release him. They collided with a nearby stone wall, resulting in a loud clang and debris falling to the floor. Bluto didn't wait to see if they were still a threat, he charged straight at the leader. Arar! Put her down now! Bluto roared. To his surprise, the catwoman released Emma and braced for the charge. Despite her efforts, she couldn't withstand Bluto's momentum. Bluto's strike sent both crashing into the opposite wall with a resounding metallic clang. The catwoman screamed as Bluto seized her waist, lifted her, and slammed her feline head into the stone floor. Even though the body remained intact, it collapsed lifelessly. Let's get out of here before they recover, Bluto said, grabbing Emma's hand. She agreed, and they fled through the burial chamber, navigating the corridors until they reached their camels. They mounted the camels, which took off at a brisk pace. As the adrenaline faded, they began to discuss their harrowing experience. So, those were the things you saw when you first entered the burial chamber? Yes, they were, and maybe now you'll believe the rest of my story, Emma said with a touch of stiffness. Ouch, yeah, I believe you. It's hard to deny it after that experience, Bluto replied, rubbing his sore muscles. Are you all right? I suppose so, but my chest feels like it's being crushed by a ton of bricks. Strange thing is, they never actually hit me there. Emma's eyes darted to Bluto's chest, noticing it was no longer as flat as it had been an hour ago. Bluto, did you, by any chance, get hit by those bright rays of light from the catwomen? Actually, I did. Why? Emma took a deep breath. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you're about to experience what I went through. Bluto laughed. Yeah, magical living statues attacked us. I believe you, end of story. No. I meant you'll soon know what it's like to be a woman because you're slowly transforming into one. Look, don't mess with me right now. Ouch, my chest really hurts. Emma sighed. Bluto, dear, look down and try not to scream. Bluto glanced down, his eyes widening as he saw 2 sizable mounds of flesh. Oh, What did they do to me? Emma sighed. I'm so glad you're taking this well. Bluto's eyes were wide with shock. This isn't funny, I don't want to be a woman. How will I adjust? I don't know how to be anything but a man. Welcome to the world I've been living in since I became a woman, Emma told him gently. At least you'll have someone to help you adjust. I had no one to turn to when it happened to me. There has to be a way to reverse this. If magic can turn you into a woman, it should be able to change you back, right? Emma smiled. Yes, and now you understand why this treasure is so important to me beyond monetary value or recognition. There might be a chance to decipher some scrolls and find a reversal for this affliction. Bluto nodded. Well, I'm with you. Whatever you need, I'm your man. Emma refrained from mentioning that soon he wouldn't be able to say that. She noticed Bluto's body was taking on a more feminine shape, with noticeable curves, though he still retained some muscle. He might end up being the world's strongest woman once the transformation was complete.